Billionaire dad forgot to pick up his daughter from school. And when he arrives, he sees the janitor hugging her on the floor. What happens next is shocking. The shrill school bell echoed through the hallways. "See you tomorrow, kids. Don't forget your homework," said Miss Johnson, waving to the students as they rushed towards the exit. The schoolyard came to life in a matter of seconds. Colorful backpacks bounced on the backs of excited children, while parents waited with smiles on their faces. Cars lined up on the street, engines running, ready to take their little ones home. Emma, 5 years older, with blonde hair tied in a ponytail and curious blue eyes, stood at the classroom door. She looked for her father's black BMW among the cars, but couldn't find it. "Emma, my mom brought homemade cookies today," shouted Sophie, running up to her. "Do you want to come over and play?" "Thanks, but my dad is coming to get me," Emma replied with a forced smile. Sophie waved and ran to her mother's car. Emma walked to the wooden bench in the middle of the schoolyard and sat down, swinging her legs. From there she could see all the cars that arrived. 4:15 p.m., 4:20 p.m., 4:25 p.m. The children left one by one. "Bye, Emma!" some shouted, waving from the car windows. She always waved back, holding her smile until they disappeared around the corner. 4:35 p.m. The schoolyard was almost empty now. Only 4 children remained, including Emma. She took out the pink phone her father had given her. "For emergencies," he always said, and dialed the number saved as Daddy Work. Voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. Her eyes started to sting. Emma put the phone away and looked around. Miss Johnson was talking to the last few parents, making sure every child had a ride. 4:45 p.m. "Emma, sweetie, is your dad on his way?" Miss Johnson asked, approaching with a worried expression. "Yes, he must be stuck in traffic," Emma answered quickly, not wanting to cause any trouble. The teacher smiled gently. "Okay, I'll wait a few more minutes with you all." But at 4:55 p.m., Miss Johnson had to leave. There was only one child left besides Emma, and her parents were just arriving. "Are you sure your dad is coming to get you?" the teacher asked one more time. "I'm sure," Emma lied, feeling a tightness in her chest. Miss Johnson hesitated, but eventually left after making sure the janitor was still at the school. 5 p.m. Emma was alone in the schoolyard. The autumn wind rustled the dry leaves across the ground. She pulled her little blue cardigan closer to her body and got off the bench. Her white flats made a dull sound on the concrete as she sat on the floor, leaning her back against the bench. Maybe from here he'll see me better when he arrives. 5:10 p.m., 5:15 p.m., 5:20 p.m. The tears started slowly. Emma tried to hold them back, but soon they were streaming down her face. She sobbed quietly, trying not to make a sound. "Why is he always late?" she whispered to the wind. It was then that she heard footsteps approaching. "Emma, honey, what's wrong?" The voice was soft, caring. Emma looked up with teary eyes and saw Grace, the school janitor, a blonde woman in her 40s with kind blue-gray eyes. She was holding a bucket and some cleaning cloths, but dropped everything on the ground when she saw the little girl crying. "My daddy, he hasn't come to get me yet," Emma said between sobs. Grace's heart ached. In her 3 years working there, she had seen Emma waiting alone more times than she cared to remember. "Oh, my angel." Grace knelt in front of the girl. "Hey, he must be on his way. Traffic, you know how it is." "He's always late." Emma wiped her nose on her sleeve. "Mommy was never late." The innocent comment cut Grace like a knife. She knew about Emma's mother. The whole school knew. Sarah had passed away 8 months ago, leaving Michael alone with a young daughter and a company to run. "You know what?" Grace sat on the ground next to Emma, not caring that her blue uniform would get dirty. "How about I stay here with you until he gets here? That way you won't be alone." Emma stopped crying for a moment and looked at Grace with hope in her blue eyes. "Don't you have to go home?" "Home can wait." Grace smiled and opened her arms. "Come here, sweetie." Emma didn't hesitate. She threw herself into Grace's hug as if it were a safe harbor in a storm. The janitor held her warmly, feeling the small body relax against her chest. "There, my beautiful girl." Everything's going to be okay now. Do you promise you'll stay with me until Daddy gets here? I promise, Grace said, stroking the girl's blonde hair. I won't leave you alone. Emma snuggled deeper into the hug, finally feeling safe. Grace. Yes, sweetie. Do you have kids? The question caught Grace by surprise. She swallowed hard before answering. No, Emma, I don't. Then can you be my pretend mommy? Grace chuckled softly, but her eyes filled with tears that she didn't let fall. You already have a daddy who loves you very much. But he's never here, Emma sighed. He's always on the phone talking about meetings and contracts. I don't even know what that means. It means he works very hard to take care of you. Mommy worked too, but she always came to get me. Always. Grace didn't know what to say. How could she explain to a 5-year-old that the adult world is sometimes just too complicated? You know what I think, Grace said finally. I think your dad just needs a reminder that you're the most important thing in his life. Do you really think so? I'm sure of it, my angel. 5:32 p.m. The sound of a car braking sharply echoed across the empty schoolyard. Emma lifted her head from Grace's shoulder and saw a black BMW stopping in front of the gate. Michael got out of the car quickly, distressed. His blue eyes scanned the yard until they found Emma. Messy blonde hair, crooked tie, short of breath. It was obvious he had been running. But what he saw made him stop in his tracks. I don't believe it, he exclaimed, more to himself than to anyone else. His daughter was on the ground, hugging the school janitor. Emma looked small and fragile in Grace's arms, as if she had found the comfort there that he should have provided. The scene hit him like a punch to the gut. Grace noticed Michael's presence and whispered in Emma's ear, "Look, sweetie, your daddy's here." Emma turned and saw her father standing a few feet away. She didn't run to him like other children would. Instead, she stood up slowly, still holding Grace's hand. "Hi, Daddy." The coldness in his daughter's voice hurt him more than any shout would have. Michael approached, trying to hide the tightness in his chest. "I'm sorry, Emma. The traffic was terrible and It's okay," she interrupted, but her voice was distant. Michael looked at Grace, who had also stood up. The janitor looked at him without judgment, but he felt judged anyway. "Thank you for staying with her," he said, embarrassed. "It was my pleasure," Grace replied sincerely. Then she knelt to Emma's level. "It's going to be okay, all right, and tomorrow, if you want, you can come tell me how your day was." Emma nodded and hugged Grace one more time. "Thank you for staying with me, for not leaving me alone. Any time you need me, my angel." As they walked to the car, Michael carrying his daughter's backpack, he couldn't get the image of Emma in someone else's arms out of his head. The ease with which she had given herself to that hug, the security she showed next to Grace, everything he couldn't seem to offer. When he put Emma in the back seat and closed the door, Michael stood there for a few seconds, watching his daughter through the glass. Emma was looking out the window at Grace, who was waving from the schoolyard, and for the first time since Sarah's death, Michael wondered if he was being enough of a father, or if he was just pretending he knew how to be one. Michael adjusted the rearview mirror so he could see Emma in the back seat. She was quiet, looking out the window, her small hands clasped in her lap. The silence in the car was deafening. He started the engine and slowly pulled out of the school parking lot. His hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel. The image of Emma in Grace's arms still burned in his mind like a branding iron. "I'm sorry, sweetie. Daddy was late." The words came out forced, heavy with guilt. Michael waited for a response. Anything. An "it's okay, Daddy," or even a "you're always late." But Emma remained silent, her blue eyes fixed on the scenery passing by the window. Michael tried again. "It was a meeting that went on longer than I expected. You know how it is, right? Sometimes work." Nothing. Emma kept looking outside, but Michael could see in the mirror that she wasn't really paying attention to the street. Her eyes had that distant look he had learned to recognize over the past few months. It was the same look she had when she asked about her mom, and he didn't know what to say. "Emma?" He tried one more time. "Are you mad at me?" She finally moved, turning her head to face him in the rearview mirror, but she said nothing. She just looked at him with those blue eyes that seemed too big for her little face, And that's when Michael saw it. It wasn't anger. It was something much worse. It was disappointment. The light turned red and Michael stopped the car. He took the opportunity to turn around completely and look at Emma. "Honey, I know you're upset, and I get it, but Daddy's trying. Okay, I'm doing my best." Emma finally spoke, but her voice was almost a whisper. "Grace said she would stay with me until you got here. And she did, right? It's a good thing she was there. She promised." The word promised came out with a weight that Michael couldn't ignore, as if Emma was comparing the promises Grace made with the ones he made. The light turned green and they continued on. Michael tried to start a conversation about school, about her friends, about anything that could break the painful silence. "How was school today? Did you learn anything cool?" It was normal. "And your teacher, is Miss Johnson doing well?" "She is." Short one-word answers. Emma had gone back to looking out the window. Michael sighed. When Sarah was alive, the ride home from school was always filled with lively conversations. Emma would tell her everything that had happened, about the games at recess, about the pictures she had drawn. Sarah knew how to ask the right questions, how to get her daughter to open up. He didn't. "Emma, do you want to stop for some ice cream? There's that shop you like." "No, thank you." "Are you sure? The chocolate one with sprinkles?" "I'm sure." Michael felt his chest tighten. Even ice cream, which was always a guarantee for smiles, couldn't pull Emma out of this state. They stopped at another red light. This time, Michael didn't turn around. He just looked in the mirror and saw Emma discreetly wiping her eyes with the sleeve of her cardigan. She was crying silently. "Emma, I'm fine," she said quickly, still not looking at him. But she wasn't fine. Michael could see it in her trembling little shoulders, in the way she curled up in her seat, trying to make herself invisible. "Honey, I know you're not fine. And I just wanted you to be on time," Emma interrupted, her voice choked with tears. "Like Mommy was." The mention of Sarah was like a stab wound. Michael swallowed hard, not knowing what to say. How could he explain that ever since Sarah died he felt lost, that he drowned himself in work because it was the only thing that still made sense? That sometimes he forgot he had a daughter waiting for him, because the pain of remembering was too great. "Your mum was better at this than me," he finally admitted. "She always knew how to be a mum. I'm still learning how to be a dad on my own." Emma finally looked at him, her eyes red from crying. "Weren't you a dad before?" The innocent question hit him hard. Of course, he was a dad before. But Sarah had always handled the practical side of things. She was the one who dropped her off and picked her up from school, who knew the schedules, who talked to the teachers, who knew Emma's friends. He just showed up for the fun parts, the weekend outings, the playtime before bed, the bedtime stories. "So Michael said, his voice softer. "But I left a lot of things to Mommy, and now she's not here anymore." "She's not." They were silent for a few minutes. Michael drove on autopilot, knowing the way home by heart. Emma had gone back to looking out the window, but now her tears were more visible. "I miss her," Emma said suddenly. "Me too, sweetie." "Every day. Grace is nice." The change of subject caught Michael by surprise. "Is she?" "She hugged me when I was crying, and she said she would stay with me." "That was very kind of her." "She smells like flowers." Michael smiled sadly. Sarah had also smelled like flowers. It was the perfume she wore, something soft and sweet. "Emma, I promise I'll try not to be late anymore." She looked at him in the mirror, her eyes still wet. "Do you really promise?" "I promise." Like Grace promised. The comparison hurt, but Michael swallowed the pain. "Like Grace promised." Emma nodded slowly, but Michael could see she wasn't fully convinced. How many times had he made similar promises? How many times had he said he would be home early, that he wouldn't work late, that he would be more present? And how many times had he broken those promises? When they got home, Emma got out of the car in silence. Michael followed her, carrying her backpack. The big empty house greeted them with its usual silence. "Want a snack?" Michael asked, trying to sound normal. "I'm not hungry. Are you sure I can make those sandwiches you like?" Can I go to my room? Michael nodded, his heart heavy. Emma went up the stairs slowly, her footsteps echoing through the silent house. He stood in the living room, holding his daughter's pink backpack. Inside, he found a few drawings Emma had made at school. One was of their family, Mommy, Daddy, and Emma holding hands. But the daddy in the drawing was far away, separated by a thick black line. The other drawing showed a little girl sitting alone on a bench. Next to her, there was a blonde woman with her arms open. Michael put the drawings away and sat on the couch, his head in his hands. Apologies weren't enough. They never would be. Emma needed more than his empty words. She needed his presence. She needed to know she was his priority. But in the meantime, it was Grace who was offering the comfort Emma needed, and that hurt more than anything Michael had ever felt. The next morning, Emma woke up earlier than usual. Michael was in the kitchen, having his usual coffee while scrolling through some company documents on his tablet. "Good morning, sweetie," he said, trying to sound more cheerful. "Want me to make pancakes?" "No need, Daddy. I just want cereal." Emma served herself and ate in silence, but Michael noticed something different about her. It wasn't the sadness from the day before. It was a kind of anticipation, as if she were waiting for something special. "Emma, are you okay?" "I am," she replied, but her eyes were sparkling in a way Michael hadn't seen in months. Emma finished her breakfast quickly and ran to pack her backpack. Michael watched her from the kitchen doorway as she carefully chose the supplies she would take to school, setting aside a few specific crayons. "What are those for?" he asked. "For a special project," Emma replied, putting the crayons lovingly in her backpack. At school, Emma was restless all morning. During recess, instead of playing with her friends, she sat under a tree, working on something on a sheet of paper. She folded, unfolded, erased lines, added colors. "Emma, aren't you coming to play?" Sophie asked, approaching curiously. "I can't today." "I'm doing something very important." "What is it?" "It's a surprise," Emma smiled, protecting the paper with her hands. Sophie shrugged and went to play with other children. Emma remained focused on her project, her tongue sticking out in an expression of total concentration. When the bell rang at the end of the day, Emma was the first one out of the classroom. She carefully put her secret drawing in her backpack and ran to the schoolyard. She sat on the same bench where she had waited the previous afternoon, but this time her demeanor was completely different. She wasn't nervous or scared. She was anxious, but in a good way. She was waiting for Grace 4:10 p.m. The children started to leave, as always. Emma waved to a few, responded to the byes of others, but her eyes were searching for Grace among the people moving around the school. "Emma!" shouted Tommy, a boy from her class. "My mum said you can come over to play today." "Thanks, Tommy, but I can't today. I'm waiting for someone." Tommy ran back to his mum, who gave Emma a friendly wave before they left. 4:15 p.m., Grace appeared in the schoolyard, pushing a cart with cleaning supplies. When she saw Emma sitting alone on the bench, her heart ached as it always did, but this time, Emma didn't look sad. "Hi, sweetie," Grace approached, leaving the cart aside. "Hasn't your dad arrived yet?" "He must be on his way," Emma answered, but without the sadness of the previous day. In fact, she was smiling. "Can you stay with me again?" Grace smiled back and sat down next to her. "Of course I can. I always can." Emma practically jumped for joy, a genuine smile lighting up her face. "Grace, I have a surprise for you." "A surprise? For me?" "Uh-huh. But first, you have to tell me how your day was." Grace laughed at the seriousness with which Emma spoke. "My day was good. I cleaned the classrooms, organized the library, helped the cook in the cafeteria. But do you know what the best part was?" "What?" "Knowing that at the end of the day I would get to see you." Emma blushed with pleasure. "Really? Really? When I woke up today, the first thing I thought was, I wonder if I'll see Emma today." "I thought about you too," Emma confessed. "I dreamed about you again." "And what was the dream like this time?" Emma thought for a moment. "You taught me how to make cookies, and then we ate them all while watching cartoons." Grace felt her heart warm. So that sounds like a very nice dream. It was the best, Grace. Yes, my angel. Yesterday, when you hugged me, it felt like when Mommy used to hug me. The comment made Grace swallow hard, but she tried not to show her emotion. Your Mommy must have given very good hugs. She did, Emma sighed, resting her head on Grace's arm. She always smelled like flowers, like you, and she always knew what to say when I was sad. Tell me about her. Emma's eyes lit up immediately. Mommy was the most beautiful person in the whole world. She had blonde hair like mine, but longer and shinier. And her eyes would change color depending on the light and the clothes she wore. Sometimes blue, sometimes green, sometimes even a little gray. She must have been a very special woman. She was the most special of all. She took me to school every day, and she was always early to pick me up. We would sing in the car, and she knew all the songs I liked. Even the silly ones. Grace listened intently, her heart aching with every word filled with longing. And she made the best mac and cheese in the universe. Daddy tries to make it the same, but it's not even close. I'm sure he tries very hard. Emma was quiet for a moment, her eyes lost in some distant memory. Grace, can I tell you a secret? You can, sweetie. You can tell me as many secrets as you want. Emma looked around, making sure no one was listening, then whispered, Sometimes I pretend that Mommy is still here. When I'm in my room, I talk to her. I tell her about school, about my friends, about the drawings I make, and about how sad Daddy gets sometimes. Grace felt a lump in her throat. And what do you think she would say if she were listening? Emma smiled sadly. I think she would tell me to be patient with Daddy, that he's not used to taking care of me alone, because she was always the one who did those things. The wisdom of that 5-year-old child left Grace impressed and moved. 4:25 p.m., more children left. Emma and Grace continued talking, becoming more and more comfortable with each other. Grace? Yes? Why do you work at the school? Because I like being around children. You all make my days brighter. But why don't you have any kids of your own? The direct question made Grace swallow hard. She looked away for a moment, as if deciding how much she could share. Sometimes things just don't happen the way we want them to in life, she answered carefully. Did you want to have kids? Grace looked back at Emma, at those blue eyes full of curiosity and innocence. Yes, I did. Very much. Then, can you pretend I'm your daughter, just when we're here together? The simple request made Grace's heart race. Emma, please. I promise I'll be a very good daughter, and you can pretend to be my mom when Daddy is late. That way neither of us will be alone. Grace felt tears welling up, but managed to control them. You are already a wonderful girl, she managed to say, her voice choked with emotion. And I would love to spend more time with you. Emma beamed and snuggled closer to Grace's arm. Dano, can I give you the surprise? You can. Emma carefully opened her backpack and took out a folded piece of paper. She held it against her chest for a moment, as if it was something very precious. I made this for you during recess. I hope you like it. She handed the paper to Grace with an expectant look on her face. Grace carefully unfolded the paper. It was a crayon drawing showing 2 figures holding hands in a garden full of colorful flowers. A blonde woman in a blue uniform and a small blonde girl. Both had huge smiles drawn on their faces. At the top of the paper, in the shaky but neat handwriting typical of a 5-year-old, it was written, Grace and Emma, best friends forever. The tears came all at once, without warning. Grace tried to hold them back, but it was useless. They streamed down her face as she stared at the drawing, her hands trembling. The drawing had touched something deep and painful within her, a wound that had never fully healed, a memory she tried to keep locked away deep in her heart, protected by layers of time and silence. Grace. Emma got scared, her eyes wide with concern. Why are you crying? Didn't you like the drawing? No, it's not that, Grace said between sobs, trying to compose herself but failing miserably. It's so beautiful, Emma. It's the most beautiful and special drawing I've ever seen in my entire life. But it wasn't just the beauty of the drawing that had made her cry. It was what it represented. It was seeing herself there, holding hands with a child, back in a role she had lost so long ago. It was the painful memory of dreams that never came true, of a future that never happened. "Are you sure you like it? You look very sad," Emma said, her voice worried. Grace wiped her tears with the back of her hand, but they kept coming. She looked at Emma and saw the confusion and concern in the girl's blue eyes. "They're happy tears, my angel," she managed to explain. "Sometimes we cry when we get very, very emotional about something special. When something touches our heart in a very strong way, like when I cry watching animated movies, exactly like that." Emma seemed relieved, but she was still worried. "So you really liked the drawing?" "Emma," Grace held the paper against her chest, right over her heart. "This is the most beautiful gift anyone has ever given me. I will keep it forever, forever and ever, forever and ever. And every time I look at it, I'll remember the day a very special little girl decided to be my friend." Emma smiled, finally at ease. "You're my favorite friend, Grace. And you're my favorite friend too." They sat in silence for a few minutes, Grace still holding the drawing, Emma leaning against her arm. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow around them. "Grace." "Yes, my sweetie?" Emma looked around again, then whispered as if sharing the world's biggest secret. "It was Mommy who always came to get me. But she got sick and became a star. Daddy was always very busy with work. He's not used to picking me up." The words came out of Emma so naturally and innocently, as if she were just stating a simple fact of life. But for Grace, each word was like a small stab to the heart. "Oh, my angel." Grace pulled Emma into a tight hug, fighting back the tears that threatened to return. "I'm so sorry about your mommy." "It's okay," Emma said, her voice muffled against Grace's shoulder. "Daddy explained that she wasn't sick anymore now that she's a star, and that she watches over me from up there." Grace closed her eyes, holding Emma close. "Daddy tries really hard, you know, but he doesn't know the things Mommy knew. He doesn't know that I like apple juice, not orange juice. He doesn't know I'm scared to sleep without the hallway light on. He doesn't know I like it when someone strokes my hair when I'm sad." Grace automatically began to stroke Emma's blonde hair, feeling the girl relax against her. "But you know those things," Emma continued, her voice sleepy. "Yesterday, when you stayed with me, I wasn't scared, and this morning I was counting the minutes until I could see you again." "I was counting the minutes too," Grace admitted. Really. When I woke up today, you were the first person I thought of." Emma pulled back a little to look at Grace. "Grace?" "Yes." "Can you teach me how to ride a bike without training wheels?" The question took Grace by surprise. Well, I would need to talk to your dad first. Please. Mommy was going to teach me when I turned 6, but she became a star before that. And Daddy always says he'll teach me, but he's always too busy." Grace looked at the little girl with her blue eyes full of hope and felt something awaken inside her, something maternal that had been dormant for a long time. "You know what? I'll talk to your dad. Maybe he'll let me. Do you promise you'll ask?" "I promise. Promise, for real, for real." Grace chuckled softly at her insistence. "I promise, for real, for real." 5:05 p.m. Michael arrived, running across the schoolyard, late once again, his face flushed from the effort. But when he saw Emma calm in Grace's arms, not crying like the day before, he slowed his pace. Emma wasn't sad. In fact, she was laughing softly at something Grace had said. "Daddy?" Emma waved, but she didn't get up from Grace's side immediately. "Hi, honey. Sorry I'm late again. Terrible traffic." "It's okay." Grace stayed with me, and she really liked the surprise I made for her. Michael looked curiously at Grace, who stood up respectfully, still holding the drawing. "Thank you again for staying with her." "No need to thank me. Emma is an extraordinary little girl." Emma went to Grace and hugged her tightly. "Thank you for liking my drawing so much. And for crying happy tears. Thank you for giving me the most special gift in the world." Michael watched the interaction between them, intrigued. There was a genuine connection there, something that went beyond simple adult-to-child kindness. "What drawing was this?" he asked. "Of the two of them together?" Emma answered proudly. Sire, Grace said it was the most beautiful drawing she's ever seen. Michael smiled, feeling grateful once more. I'm sure it was. As they walked to the car, Emma held her father's hand, but kept looking back, waving to Grace until she was out of sight. Dad? Yes, honey. Grace cried when she saw my drawing. She cried. Why? She said they were happy tears. That sometimes we cry when we get very emotional about something special. Michael nodded, intrigued. And do you think she really liked it? I'm sure of it. She held it right next to her heart. In the car, Emma was different again. Not sad like the day before, but thoughtful in a more mature way. Dad? Yes. Grace is very special. She really is. She wants to talk to you about something. About what? Emma smiled mysteriously. It's a surprise, but it's a good thing. Michael looked in the rearview mirror, seeing the genuine smile on his daughter's face. Dad, do you think Mommy would be happy to know that Grace takes care of me when you're late? The question, as always, caught Michael off guard, but this time he didn't hesitate as much to answer. I think so, honey. I think Mommy would be very happy to know there's someone so special looking after you. Emma smiled and went back to looking out the window, but this time she wasn't sad. She was waiting for the next day to see Grace again. Michael arrived at the school 10 minutes early that afternoon. He had rushed out of an important meeting, leaving his partners talking among themselves. But this time, he wanted to try to arrive before Emma was left waiting. He parked the BMW and walked towards the schoolyard. What he saw made him stop at the entrance. Emma was on the lawn, chasing after soap bubbles that Grace was blowing from a small bottle. The little girl was laughing loudly, trying to pop the bubbles before they hit the ground. Her blonde hair flew freely, and her smile was enormous. Michael couldn't remember the last time he had seen Emma laugh like that. I got it! I got it! Emma shouted, popping a large bubble. Good job, Grace clapped. Now let's see if you can get 2 at once. Emma ran desperately, trying to catch them all. When she managed to pop 2 at the same time, she started jumping for joy. Michael stood there, watching. His daughter seemed light, carefree, happy, in a way he had forgotten existed. Daddy! Emma noticed him and ran in his direction, but she didn't stop smiling. You're early. Grace was teaching me how to catch soap bubbles. I saw that. Michael smiled, but he felt a strange mix of joy and jealousy. Emma took her father's hand, still excited. Grace said that tomorrow she can teach me how to make flower bracelets. Can I, Dad? Yes, you can, honey. Emma jumped for joy and gave Grace a quick hug before heading to the car. On the way home, Emma couldn't stop talking about Grace and the soap bubbles. Michael listened, but his mind was troubled. How was it possible that a janitor could make his daughter smile like that when he couldn't? That night, Michael made a decision. The next day, he left the office early and stopped at the most expensive toy store in the city. His eyes landed on a giant doll with blonde hair, dressed like a princess, with a real crown. It's the most expensive one we have, said the saleswoman. It comes with an entire wardrobe. I'll take it, Michael said without hesitation. He arrived at the school on time, carrying the huge box. Emma was in the schoolyard, showing Grace a daisy bracelet. Look, Dad. I managed to make it myself. Emma ran to him. Very pretty, honey, and look what Daddy brought you. Michael presented the box with an expectant smile. Emma opened it and her eyes widened. Wow, she's so beautiful. Do you like it? It's the most expensive doll in the store. Emma took the doll out of the box, examined it for a few seconds, then looked at Grace. Grace, want to see my new doll? Grace praised it sincerely, but Michael noticed that Emma soon lost interest, putting the doll aside and going back to talking with Grace about the bracelets. Grace taught me how to make special knots, Emma explained to her father. Sir, do you want me to make a bracelet for you? Michael was surprised by Emma's lack of interest in the expensive doll. Of course, honey. The next day, Michael tried another strategy. He arrived with a new tablet. Emma, look. Our tablet just for you, with all the games you could want. Emma examined the device, played with it for a few minutes, but was soon distracted when Grace appeared. Grace, Did you bring the supplies to make origami animals? I did, my angel. Shall we start with a little bird? Emma completely forgot about the tablet, sitting on the floor next to Grace to fold colorful papers. Michael watched, increasingly confused. How could plain paper be more interesting than a state-of-the-art tablet? The following week, he tried with clothes. He arrived with bags from a designer children's store. Emma, I picked out these dresses for you. Emma looked at the dresses politely, thanked him, but remained more interested in showing Grace the drawings she had made. This one is you teaching a girl how to ride a bike, Emma explained. And this is us planting flowers. Grace smiled, touched by the drawings. They're beautiful, Emma. You have a lot of talent. Michael looked at the simple drawings, made with school crayons, and saw how Emma's eyes lit up when Grace praised them. The same sparkle that didn't appear when he gave her expensive gifts. He tried one last time on Friday. He arrived with tickets to a famous amusement park. Emma, how about we go to Wonder Park this weekend? Emma was excited for a moment, but then she asked, Can Grace come with us? The question caught Michael off guard. Well, it's kind of a father-daughter thing. Emma was visibly disappointed. Then I'd rather stay here and play with Grace. Michael felt as if he had been punched. His daughter would rather stay and play in the schoolyard with the janitor than go to the best amusement park in the city with him. That afternoon, in the car, Michael tried to understand. Emma, didn't you like the presents Daddy brought you? I did, Dad, thank you. But you seem to like being with Grace more. Emma thought for a moment. Grace really plays with me. She sits on the floor, gets her clothes dirty, laughs at my silly jokes, and when I talk to her, she stops everything and listens to me. Michael swallowed hard. And Daddy doesn't do that. You try, Dad, but when you give me presents, you seem like you're in a hurry, like it's a chore. Grace is never in a hurry with me. Emma's words were a painful revelation. Michael realized he had been trying to buy his daughter's love when what she really wanted was his attention. Grace doesn't have money to give me expensive presents, Emma continued, but she teaches me things, plays with me, and always remembers what I like. She knows my favorite color is purple, that I'm scared of bees. Michael realized he didn't know any of these things about his own daughter. And you know what else, Dad? What, honey? When Grace looks at me, it feels like I'm the most important person in the world to her, like Mommy used to do. Michael had to pull the car over for a moment. His daughter had just explained that he was failing as a father, not because he didn't give expensive gifts, but because he didn't give himself. Grace had won Emma's heart simply by being present, by being real, by being loving. Dad. Yes, honey. Are you okay? Michael saw Emma watching him with concern. I am. Just thinking. About what? About how to be a better dad. Emma smiled. You're already a good dad. You just need to play with me more, without being in a hurry. Michael nodded, finally understanding. All the expensive gifts in the world couldn't replace one simple thing Grace offered: genuine love and full attention. That night, Michael put away all the expensive gifts and made a promise. Starting the next day, he would try to be for Emma what Grace already was, someone who made her feel special, not for what he gave, but for how he treated her, someone who wasn't in a hurry to love her. Michael spent that night sleepless, sitting in the armchair in his home office, looking at a photo of Sarah on the desk. In it, his wife was holding a baby, Emma, both smiling for the camera. It was a simple photo, but it captured something he had lost, the natural connection between a mother and daughter. What am I doing wrong? He murmured to the photo. But deep down, he knew. Sarah had always been the bridge between him and Emma. She translated their daughter's needs, organized the routine, created the special moments. Michael participated, but always as a supporting actor. Now, without Sarah, he felt lost, trying to be both a father and a mother at the same time, without knowing how to do either role right. And Grace had appeared, naturally filling the void he couldn't fill. Michael's pride hurt deeply. It hurt to admit that a janitor, earning a fraction of his salary, could give his daughter something that he, with all the resources in the world, could not. It hurt to see Emma run to Grace with the same excitement she once reserved for Sarah. It hurt to realize that, in his daughter's eyes, Grace was becoming more important than him. It's not fair, he thought, but immediately felt guilty for the irrational anger. Grace had done nothing but be kind to a child who needed affection. The problem was him, and Michael knew it. He stood up and walked to Emma's room. The little girl was asleep, hugging a teddy bear that Sarah had given her on her last birthday. Next to the bed, several drawings were spread out on the nightstand. Michael moved closer to look at them. All the drawings included Grace, Emma playing with Grace, Emma and Grace at the park, Emma, Grace, and a distant man in a suit, always separated from the two by a line or some kind of obstacle. That's how Emma saw him. Distant. Separate. Michael sat on the edge of the bed and watched his daughter sleep. Emma looked so small, so fragile. How had he become so absent in her life? The next morning, Michael woke up determined he was going to change. He was going to be the father Emma needed, not just the absent provider he had been until now. "Emma," he said during breakfast, pulling up a chair to sit next to her instead of standing and reading emails on his phone. "Today, Daddy is going to pick you up from school right on time. How about we go get ice cream afterward?" Emma's eyes lit up in a way Michael hadn't seen in months. "Really, Dad?" "Really, Dad's promise," he said, demonstratively putting his phone in his pocket. Emma beamed, and Michael felt a pang of hope in his chest. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe he could still win back the place he had lost in his daughter's heart. Michael spent the entire day thinking about his outing with Emma. He declined 2 meetings, delegated an important presentation to a subordinate, and even turned off his phone for an hour to focus only on essential work. At 3:45 p.m., he was in the car, driving to the school with a smile on his face. He would arrive early, surprise Emma, and finally start rebuilding the relationship between them. But at 3:30 p.m., when he should have been leaving the office, Michael had been caught by surprise by an urgent video conference with Japanese investors. The time difference made it the only available window, and the deal was worth millions. The lead partner was sick, and only Michael could lead the negotiation. Just 15 more minutes, he thought, looking at the clock and feeling his stomach clench. 15 minutes turned into 30. The Japanese were meticulous, asking detailed questions about every aspect of the project. 30 minutes turned into 45. Michael was sweating, torn between his professional responsibility and the promise he had made to his daughter. When he finally managed to end the meeting, it was 5:10 p.m. Michael ran to his car, drove like a madman, breaking every speed limit. When he arrived at the school, it was 5:25 p.m. The schoolyard was almost empty, and there was Emma, once again in Grace's arms. But this time it was different. Emma wasn't just crying from sadness like the first few times. She was visibly upset, disappointed, with a look of hurt that broke Michael's heart. When she saw her father approach, she didn't run to him as she had before. She stood still next to Grace, her arms crossed. "Hi, honey," Michael said, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. "Sorry, it was a meeting that went on longer than—" "You promised," Emma interrupted him, her voice choked but firm. "You promised you would be on time. You put your phone away and everything." The simple accusation was like a blade cutting through his soul. Michael looked at Grace, who avoided his gaze, clearly uncomfortable with the situation but keeping a protective hand on Emma's shoulder. "I know, Emma. I know I promised, but it was a work emergency. A very important deal that—" "It's always a work emergency," Emma said with devastating maturity. "Science always more important than me." Grace stood up, helping Emma get her backpack with gentle gestures. "Emma, sweetie, sometimes adults have to deal with unexpected things at work," she said gently, trying to smooth over the situation. "But he promised," Emma insisted, looking at Grace with teary eyes. "You always do what you promise. Like when you said you'd teach me to make bracelets and you did. Like when you said you'd stay with me until Daddy got here and you did. Always." The comparison hurt more than any shout would have. Michael realized that in Emma's eyes, Grace was the reliable person, the solid rock, while he was the one who broke his word, the one who constantly disappointed. "Grace never disappoints me," Emma murmured, more to herself than to the adults. In the car, the silence was thick and heavy with hurt. Emma looked out the window, clearly upset, her lips pressed together in an expression that reminded him of Sarah when she was displeased. "Honey, I'm really sorry," Michael tried again, looking in the rearview mirror. "How about tomorrow It's okay, Dad," Emma said, but her voice was cold and distant. "I already knew you were going to be late anyway." "What do you mean? Why did you know?" "Grace explained to me that sometimes daddies have very, very important jobs, more important than picking up their kids. She said it doesn't mean you don't love me, it just means you can't show it right." Michael felt his chest tighten. Grace was defending him to Emma, even after he had failed yet again. She was building bridges that he himself was burning with his tardiness. Did Grace really say that? She did. "She always says nice things about you when you're not here. That you must be working hard to give me a nice house, cool clothes, a good school. That you love me, but you have a different way of showing it." Michael's guilt intensified like a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. Grace was being more generous and understanding with him than he deserved. She was protecting his image in front of Emma, even when he was failing miserably as a father. "And do you believe what Grace says?" Emma was quiet for a long, thoughtful moment. "I want to believe it, Dad, but it's hard when you always promise and never follow through." In the following days, Michael really tried. He cancelled non-essential meetings, delegated more responsibilities, and arrived on time twice in a row. He took Emma for ice cream, helped with her homework, and even played dolls with her for a whole hour. Emma was genuinely happy, and Michael felt he was on the right track. Maybe he could regain his daughter's trust, maybe there was still time. But on Thursday of the following week, a crisis erupted at the company. One of the biggest clients was threatening to cancel a multi-million-dollar contract due to a misunderstanding about delivery deadlines. Michael couldn't just leave and let the situation resolve itself. 15 jobs were at risk, not to mention the company's reputation. He called the school, asking them to tell Emma he would be late. But when he arrived at 5:15 p.m., he found a scene that made him stop at the schoolyard entrance. Emma and Grace were sitting on the bench, talking quietly like two close friends. Emma was showing a drawing to Grace, who was looking at it with genuine and affectionate attention. "This is you and me at the park," Emma explained, pointing to colorful figures on the paper. "Look, you're pushing me on the swing really high, and I'm flying. It's beautiful, my angel. Your drawings are getting more beautiful and detailed every day," Grace replied, stroking Emma's hair. "When you teach me how to ride a bike, can I draw that too?" "Of course you can. It will be the most special drawing of all." Michael approached slowly, feeling like an intruder in that intimate moment, like someone interrupting a private conversation between a mother and daughter. "Hi, Dad," Emma said when she noticed him, but without her earlier excitement. There was a resignation in her voice that broke Michael's heart. "Sorry, honey. Serious problem at work again, but I called the school to let you know." Emma just nodded, as if she had been expecting that answer, as if she had gotten used to the disappointments. Grace stood up respectfully, as she always did when Michael arrived. "Emma was telling me about art class today," she said, trying to include Michael in the conversation and ease the tension. "She made a very creative project about family." "Really? And how did that project go?" "It was nice," Emma replied, without much enthusiasm, putting the drawing in her backpack. "Doesn't she want to show me?" Michael insisted, trying to show interest. "It's private," Emma mumbled. The ride home was silent again. Michael realized he was losing ground with his daughter with every delay, every broken promise, while Grace was gaining more and more space in Emma's heart. The following Friday, Michael arrived on time, determined to win back his daughter's trust, but he found a scene that made him even more uncomfortable and confused about his place in Emma's life. Emma was teaching Grace a hand-clapping game, singing a song that Sarah used to sing with her when she was smaller. Patter cake, baker's man, bake me a cake as fast as you can. They sang together, clapping their hands to the right rhythm, laughing when one of them missed the beat. It was a song Sarah had taught Emma when she was only 3 years old. It was a precious, intimate memory, something that belonged only to their family. Seeing his daughter sharing that sacred memory with Grace made Michael feel like he was losing the last pieces of his connection with Sarah and Emma. "Daddy!" Emma finally noticed him, but didn't stop the game immediately. "Grace learned the song that Mommy taught me." "I did," Grace smiled, but Michael noticed a certain caution in her blue eyes, as if she understood perfectly how delicate and painful that situation was for him. "Emma is a very good teacher," Grace added diplomatically. In the car, Michael couldn't hold back any longer. "Emma, that song. It was special between you and Mommy. It was for the two of you." "I know, Dad, that's why I taught it to Grace, so she can sing it with me when you're late. It's like a little piece of Mommy stays here with me." The devastating innocence of her response hit Michael like a gunshot. Emma wasn't trying to hurt or provoke him. She was simply sharing something precious with the person who was there when he wasn't. She was trying to keep her mother's memory alive in the only way she knew how. "You really like Grace, don't you?" "A lot," Emma answered without a second of hesitation. "She's like a pretend mommy who appeared to take care of me. I can tell her anything, any secret, and she always understands, always." Michael felt a pang of jealousy and pain. "And what about me? You can tell me anything too." Emma was quiet for a long, thoughtful moment. "I can, Dad, but you always seem worried about other things, even when you're here. Grace only worries about me when we're together." "It's like I'm the only important thing in the world to her at that moment." Michael swallowed hard. His daughter had perfectly summarized the problem. Even when he was physically present, mentally, he was always somewhere else, always divided between her and his professional responsibilities. "Emma, I want you to know that you are the most important thing in my life. The only thing that's truly important." "I know, Dad. Grace always says that. She says you work so hard because you love me and want to take care of me in the best way you know how." Once again, Grace was defending him, building bridges that he himself was destroying with his constant absence. That night, Michael found himself awake late again, pacing through the empty house, thinking. The relationship between Emma and Grace was deepening with each passing day. He saw how Emma saved small handmade gifts to give to the janitor, how she told secrets she didn't share with him, how she automatically sought Grace's comfort when she was sad or scared. It was like watching his daughter create a new emotional family, one where he was just a peripheral figure, important but distant. His wounded pride constantly battled with overwhelming guilt. On one hand, it hurt deeply to admit that he had failed so much as a father, that a stranger had taken his place in his daughter's heart. On the other, guilt consumed him because he knew the situation was entirely his fault, a result of his choices and wrong priorities. Sarah had always said that being a father wasn't just about providing financially, but about being present emotionally. At the time, Michael thought she was being dramatic, exaggerating. Now he understood that she had been trying to protect the very thing he had lost, the deep and intimate connection with his daughter. Grace hadn't stolen Emma from him. She had simply filled the empty space he had left behind. And the most painful part was that Grace did it with no personal agenda, no self-interest. She simply loved Emma in a genuine, selfless, and complete way. Michael knew he should be grateful that someone was taking such good care of his daughter, but the wound to his pride still bled, constantly reminding him that he had failed at the most important role in his life, being a present father. And the worst part was that, despite all his sincere promises and good intentions, he kept failing. Every late arrival was a new disappointment for Emma and a new victory for Grace in his daughter's heart. Michael wondered, in the loneliness of the early morning, if there was still time to reclaim what he had lost, or if Grace had already permanently occupied the place that should have been his in Emma's heart and life. The following afternoon, Michael arrived at the school on time but found Emma crying silently in Grace's arms. The scene no longer surprised him, but it still hurt. "What happened?" he asked, concerned. "Nothing serious," Grace replied softly. "Emma just had a rough day." Emma walked to her father, but her eyes were red. I'm okay now, she murmured. In the car, Emma was quiet. When they got home, she went straight to her room. Michael stood in the living room, feeling lost. An hour later, the phone rang. Mr. Michael, Emma left her pencil case at school. I'd like to bring it by and talk to you. Michael frowned, intrigued. Of course, you can come over. Grace arrived holding the pencil case. Michael invited her in, but she hesitated. I'd rather talk out here. I don't want Emma to hear us. They sat on the porch. Grace took a deep breath. Mr. Michael, I know it's not my place, but I'm worried about Emma. Worried how? Grace looked down at her hands. Emma misses her mother, yes, but what hurts her the most is missing you. She says her daddy is always busy fixing things at the company. The words hit Michael like a punch. She said that. She did. Today, she cried, because the other parents came early to see a performance in the schoolyard. She really wanted you to have seen it. Michael felt his heart ache. He didn't even know there had been a performance. Emma talks about you a lot, Grace continued. She says you're very smart, that you have a big company, but she also says it feels like you don't have time for her. Grace, I'm not judging you, sir. I know it must be hard raising a child alone, but Emma needs to know that she's important. She is the most important thing in my life. I know. But she doesn't. To a child, importance is measured in time and attention. Grace stood up. I'm sorry if I overstepped, but I've grown very attached to Emma. I just want what's best for her. Grace, thank you for taking care of her, and for telling me this. Grace smiled sadly. Emma deserves to have her father present. After Grace left, Michael went up to Emma's room. He found his daughter lying down, hugging her teddy bear. Emma, can I come in? She nodded without looking up. Michael sat on the edge of the bed. Honey, can we talk? Emma turned to face him. About what? About how I've been an absent father. Emma stayed quiet, waiting. Emma, you had your mom. She took care of everything. Your things, your schedules. I wasn't used to having commitments other than the company. Emma continued to look at him, serious. But that's no excuse. I should have learned to be a better father after Mommy became a star. I should have understood that you needed me. Dad, let me finish. I know I've failed you. I know I've been late, missed important things, made you feel forgotten. Michael felt his eyes well up with tears, but I promise I'll make it up to you. I promise I won't be late anymore. I promise you will be my #1 priority. Emma sat up in bed. Did you really promise? I promise with all my heart. And what if there's a very important meeting? Nothing is more important than you, Emma. Nothing. Emma was silent, as if weighing whether she could trust him. Dad, sometimes I get scared that you're going to leave too, like Mommy did. The confession broke Michael's heart. Emma, look at me. I will never leave you, never. I was just lost, trying to be a father and a mother at the same time. Grace said you're learning to be a dad on your own. Grace is right, but it's no excuse for making you feel abandoned. Michael opened his arms. Can I have a hug? Emma didn't hesitate. She threw herself into her father's arms, and for the first time in months, Michael felt that she was truly present, connected. I love you so much, sweetie. More than any job, anything in the world. I love you too, Dad. They held each other for a few minutes. Dad. Yes. There's a school play tomorrow. Can you come? Michael smiled, hugging her tighter. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Emma pulled away and smiled. It was the first genuine smile in weeks. Really? Really? What time? At 3 in the afternoon. I'll be there at 2:30. Emma laughed. Can you help me practice my lines? Of course. Let's practice right now. For a whole hour, Michael's phone stayed silent. He didn't think about work even once. For the first time since Sarah's death, Michael was completely present, and Emma was smiling, a real smile. Dad? Yes, love. Thank you for talking to me. Thank you for giving me another chance. Emma snuggled up next to her father. Grace is going to be happy when I tell her we talked. Michael smiled. He was grateful to Grace. She had taken care of Emma and even defended him. Grace is a very special person. She is. She helped me not give up on you. That night, Michael slept better than he had in months. For the first time, he felt there was a real chance to mend the relationship with his daughter. And the next day, at 2:30 on the dot, Michael was in the front row of the auditorium, waiting to see Emma perform. Finally, he understood what truly mattered. The day after his talk with Emma, Michael woke up at 6 a.m. with a determination he hadn't felt in months. He prepared breakfast calmly, without rushing, without his phone in hand. When Emma came down to the kitchen, she found her father sitting at the table, waiting for her. "Good morning, Princess," Michael said, smiling genuinely. Emma seemed surprised, but she smiled back. "Good morning, Dad. Want some pancakes? I remember you liked them when Mommy used to make them." Emma's eyes lit up. "Can you make them?" Michael stood up, determined. He didn't know exactly how Sarah made them, but he was going to try. As he prepared the batter, Emma sat on the kitchen counter, swinging her legs and chatting. Michael realized it had been a long time since he'd had a morning conversation with his daughter without being in a hurry to leave. "Dad, are you really coming to my play today?" "I am." "At 2:30, just like I promised," Emma smiled. "And you're not going to be late." Michael stopped stirring the batter and looked at her seriously. "Emma, I've already cancelled all my afternoon meetings. The only important thing on my schedule today is seeing you on stage." The pancakes were a bit lopsided, but Emma ate them with gusto, praising her father's effort. At 2:20 p.m., Michael was parking at the school. He arrived even before the auditorium doors opened and was one of the first parents to enter. When Emma saw him in the front row, her face lit up in a way Michael hadn't seen in a very long time. She gave him a discreet wave from the stage, beaming. The play was simple, but Michael watched it as if it were the most important performance in the world. He filmed, took pictures, and clapped enthusiastically. After the performance, Emma ran to him. "Dad, you really came." "Of course, I did. You were wonderful." Emma threw herself into his arms, and Michael felt that something had changed between them. There was a connection that hadn't existed for months. Grace approached shyly. "Mr. Michael, it's good to see you here." Emma was so happy. "Thank you, Grace, for everything." Grace smiled and stepped away, giving the father and daughter their space. In the following days, Michael kept his promise. Every day at 3:45 p.m., he was leaving the office. He arrived at the school punctually at 4:10 p.m., always a few minutes before the bell rang. Emma began to wait for him with happy anticipation, no longer with the fear of being abandoned. When she saw him arrive, she would run to him with a huge smile. "Dad, I learned how to do division today." "Really? Tell me all about it." Michael now sat on the schoolyard bench and listened to every detail of Emma's day, about her classes, the games, her friends. He paid real attention, asked questions, and showed genuine interest. Grace watched from a distance, smiling at the transformation. Sometimes she would come over to greet them, but she realized she was no longer needed. Michael had taken on his role as a father. One afternoon, Emma came home excited. "Dad, I have math homework. Can you help me?" "Of course. Let's do it together." Michael sat next to Emma at the kitchen table. At first, he tried to solve the problems quickly, like he did with spreadsheets at work. But he realized Emma needed a different pace. "Slow down, Dad." "Can you explain that again? I didn't get that part." Michael took a deep breath and started over patiently. He explained step by step, let Emma try on her own, and praised her when she got it right. "Great job, honey. You're so smart." Emma smiled, proud. "Grace always says I'm smart." "Now you can see it too." Michael realized that Grace knew aspects of Emma that he was only just now discovering. From that week on, helping with homework became a routine. Michael would come home from work, and the first thing he did was ask about her school assignments. "Dad, the teacher said my handwriting is getting better today." "That's great." "Can I see your notebook?" Emma proudly showed him her penmanship exercises. Michael gave genuine praise, seeing his daughter's effort in every carefully drawn letter. At bedtime, Michael started reading stories to Emma. It was something Sarah had always done, and which he had abandoned after his wife's death. Dad, can you read the story of Cinderella? Of course, Princess. Michael sat on the edge of the bed and Emma snuggled up beside him. As he read, he could feel his daughter's breathing become calmer, more peaceful. Dad? Yes? I like it when you read to me. Your voice is different from Mommy's, but it's nice too. Michael felt his eyes well up with tears. I like reading to you too. Gradually, Emma started to smile more at home. She laughed at her father's jokes, shared more details about school, and asked for his opinion on clothes and toys. Dad, which color do you think looks better on me? Pink or purple? Purple, Michael answered without hesitation. Emma was surprised. Promise, how did you know purple is my favorite color? Because I'm paying attention, Michael said, stroking her hair. At school, the change was also visible. Emma no longer ran immediately to Grace when the bell rang. She would play with her friends until she saw her father arrive. Then she would go to him naturally. Hi, Dad. Look what I made in art class. Emma would proudly show her drawings, and Michael kept them all in a special folder at home. Grace was still around, but her presence was less necessary. Sometimes she would talk to Michael about Emma, sharing observations about the girl's development. She's so much happier, Grace commented one day. She smiles more, plays more. It makes a difference to have her father present. Thank you for taking care of her when I didn't know how. She never stopped loving you. She just needed to know she was loved back. 2 weeks into this new routine, Michael made a decision that surprised even himself. On Thursdays, he called his office. I won't be in tomorrow. I'm going to spend the day with my daughter. He cancelled all his meetings, delegated the urgent tasks, and for the first time in years, took a full day off. On Friday morning, Emma was surprised to see her father still at home when she left for school. Dad, aren't you going to work? Not today. Today is our special day. Our day. That's right. I'm going to pick you up from school, and we're going to spend the afternoon together, just the two of us. Emma almost jumped for joy. Really? Really? Get ready for an unforgettable day. Emma went to school more excited than Michael had seen her in a very long time. At 3:50 p.m., Michael was at the school gate, waiting. When Emma saw him, she ran to him, shouting with joy, "Oh, my dad, you're even earlier today. I came to get my princess for our special day. What are we going to do? First, we're going to the park. Then, ice cream, and anything else you want." Emma held her father's hand tightly, as if to make sure this was real. The park was full of children on a Friday afternoon. Michael and Emma walked to the playground, and for the first time, Michael paid attention to what his daughter really enjoyed. "Dad, let's go on the swings." "Let's go!" Michael pushed Emma on the swing, and she laughed loudly, asking to go higher and higher. "Higher, Dad, higher." "Are you sure?" "You won't be scared." "With you pushing, I'm not scared of anything." Emma's words touched Michael deeply. After months of feeling like a stranger in his daughter's life, she was finally showing trust in him. After the swings, they went to the slide. Michael climbed up with her, and they went down together, laughing like two kids. "Dad, you're fun. Why didn't you play with me before?" The innocent question made Michael pause for a moment. "Because I was lost, honey, but now I've found my way." Emma didn't fully understand, but she smiled and pulled her dad toward the merry-go-round. After an hour at the park, they went for ice cream at Emma's favorite shop. "What flavor do you want, Princess?" "Chocolate with sprinkles. What about you?" "I'll have the same as you." They sat at an outdoor table, eating ice cream and talking. Michael asked questions he had never asked before. "Emma, what's your favorite subject in school?" "Math. I like solving problems." "And what's your favorite color again?" "Purple." "But you already knew that, right?" "And what do you want to be when you grow up?" Emma thought for a moment. "I want to be like Grace. I want to take care of sad kids and make them smile." The answer touched Michael. Emma had found in Grace not just a caregiver, but a role model of kindness. "That's a very beautiful profession," Michael said. After the ice cream, they walked through the town square. Emma held her father's hand, chattering about everything she saw. "Dad, look at that dog. Can I pet it?" "You can, but ask the owner first." Emma shyly approached the dog's owner, a kind old man who let her pet the animal. "Dad, can I have a dog?" Michael, who would have automatically said no before, stopped to think, "How about we talk about it? It's a big responsibility. I can take care of it. I'll give it food, water, take it for walks. Let's research dogs together, and if you prove you're ready, who knows?" Emma was thrilled with the possibility. As the sun began to set, they sat on a bench in the square. "Dad?" "Yes, love." Emma snuggled up next to him, sighing contentedly. "Daddy, this was the best day." Michael felt his heart completely warm up. "It was the best day for me too, honey. Can we do this again?" "Of course we can. We'll have many more days like this." Emma smiled and closed her eyes, enjoying the moment. "Dad, now I know you love me." "I've always loved you, Emma. I just didn't know how to show it right. Now you do." Michael kissed the top of his daughter's head. "Now I do." When they returned home, Emma was tired but happy. During dinner, she couldn't stop talking about her special day. At bedtime, Emma hugged her father tightly. "Dad, thank you for the most special day of my life. Thank you for teaching me how to be a better dad." That night, Michael slept with the certainty that he had finally found his place in Emma's life. And Emma slept with a smile, knowing that her father truly loved her. It was the beginning of a new chapter for both of them. 2 weeks had passed since the special day at the park. Michael religiously maintained the routine of picking Emma up on time, and the relationship between father and daughter had completely transformed. Emma smiled more, talked more, and the bond between them grew stronger every day. One Friday afternoon, Michael arrived at the school a few minutes earlier than usual. He had left an important meeting so he wouldn't be late and arrived with time to spare. He found Emma in the schoolyard, playing tag with other children, laughing loudly and carefree. But something caught his attention. Grace was sitting alone on the bench where she used to wait with Emma, watching the children with a deeply melancholic expression. Her hands were clasped in her lap, and there was a sadness in her blue eyes that Michael had never noticed before. Something about Grace's posture unsettled him. She seemed distant, lost in thoughts that were clearly saddening her. It was as if she were watching the children play through a veil of pain. When Emma saw him, she ran to him, as she always did now. "Dad, you're early today." "I am, Princess." "How was school?" Emma started telling him about the school activities, about the art class where she had painted a rainbow, but Michael noticed that Grace remained on the bench, not approaching as she usually did. "Emma, why is Grace over there by herself?" "She didn't come to talk to us today." Emma stopped talking and looked towards Grace, her expression changing to one of concern. "She's been a little sad today, Dad. Since lunchtime, I asked what was wrong, but she didn't want to tell me. She said it was grown-up stuff." Michael looked at Grace again, noticing how she discreetly wiped her eyes. Something deeply painful was happening to her. "How about we go talk to her? Maybe she needs some company." Emma nodded immediately. "Good idea, Dad. Grace always takes care of me when I'm sad. Now it's our turn to take care of her." Together, they walked over to Grace. Michael noticed that she quickly tried to hide her sadness when she saw them approaching. "Grace," Emma approached carefully. "Are you okay? You look sad." Grace looked up, trying to mask her pain with a smile she couldn't sustain. "I'm okay, my angel. Just a little tired today." But Michael could see it wasn't just tiredness. There was a deep old pain in those blue-gray eyes. Grace," Michael said gently, "if you want to talk about anything, we're here. Sometimes it helps to talk." Grace looked at him for a long moment, as if assessing whether she could really trust him. Her eyes filled with tears she tried to hold back. "It's just that today marks exactly 3 years, she said, her voice trembling. 3 years since what? Emma asked with innocent curiosity. Grace looked at Emma, then at Michael, and for a moment it seemed like she was going to change the subject, but something in her eyes gave in. 3 years since my daughter became a star too. The silence that followed was heavy. Emma's eyes widened as she processed the information, while Michael felt as if he had been punched in the gut. "You had a daughter?" Emma asked, her voice small. Grace nodded, the tears now starting to fall. "I did. Her name was Lily. She was just a little younger than you, Emma." She was 4 when she got very sick. Michael sat down on the bench next to Grace, feeling his heart ache. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together. Grace. I didn't know. You never mentioned... No one knows, Grace said, wiping her tears. It's too hard to talk about, too painful. I prefer to keep her memories just for myself. Emma, with the sensitivity of children who have known loss, moved closer and hugged Grace without hesitation. I'm so sorry about your daughter, Grace. Now she and my mommy are probably playing together up in heaven. Grace hugged Emma back, sobbing quietly. Thank you, my angel. I'm sure they are. Michael watched the scene, a deep understanding washing over him. He began to understand Grace's special affection for Emma, the motherly way she cared for her, the tears when she received the first drawing. Grace, Michael said softly, is that why you take such good care of Emma? Because of your Lily? Grace nodded, still holding Emma. When I saw Emma crying alone that first day, it was like my Lily was there asking for help. I couldn't save my daughter from her illness, but I could take care of Emma when she needed it. Grace's tears were falling freely now. I know it might seem strange, but taking care of Emma made me feel useful again. It made me feel like a mother again, even if just for a few minutes each day. It was as if through her I could still express the motherly love I couldn't fully give to my Lily. Michael felt his own eyes fill with tears. Grace, it's not strange. It's beautiful. You gave my daughter the comfort I didn't know how to give. Emma pulled back a little from Grace to look her in the eyes. Grace, can you pretend I'm your daughter in your heart, even now that Daddy is taking better care of me? Grace smiled through her tears. Oh, Emma, you already are my daughter in my heart. Ready. Since the very first day, Michael watched the exchange between them and felt something shift inside him. A complete understanding of what Grace had done for his family. Grace, can I ask you a few personal questions? She nodded. Do you live alone? I do. Since Lily passed, my husband and I separated. The pain was too great. We each dealt with grief differently and ended up drifting apart. He wanted to forget, to move on. I couldn't. And do you only work here at the school? I work here during the week, and on weekends I clean a few houses. It's enough to live on. But it's a very simple and lonely life. Michael was quiet for a few moments, an idea taking shape. Grace, he said finally, would you accept an invitation for coffee at our house tomorrow? I'd like to talk to you about a proposal. Grace seemed surprised. Of course, Mr. Michael. What kind of proposal? I'd rather talk in person, and please, just Michael. After everything you've done for us, I think we can drop the formalities. The next morning, Grace arrived at Michael's house punctually at 10 a.m., clearly nervous. Emma was overjoyed to see her. Grace, you finally came over. Come see my room. Emma pulled Grace by the hand, and the two went upstairs to the room. Michael followed them, watching how Grace genuinely admired every detail of Emma's room. What a beautiful room, Emma, and so many pretty drawings. These are all for you, Emma said proudly, showing her a stack of papers. I draw you almost every day. Grace looked through the drawings, growing more emotional with each one. In all of them, she and Emma appeared together, always smiling, always holding hands. After Emma got distracted by her toys, Michael called Grace to talk in the living room. Grace, he began, you changed my daughter's life, and you helped change mine too. Grace remained silent, waiting for him to continue. Emma was getting lost after Sarah died, and I was lost too. You appeared like an angel and took care of her when I didn't know how. Michael, I just did what anyone would do. No, Grace. You did much more than that. You loved my daughter when she needed love the most, and even after I got better as a father, you continued to be special to her. Michael stood up and walked to the window. I have a proposal for you. Grace looked at him, curious. I want you to always be close to Emma. I want you to truly be part of our family. Michael, I don't understand. I'm offering you a job, to work here at home, taking care of Emma and the house, with a better salary and proper conditions, so that you can always be close to her. Grace was silent for a long moment, processing the offer. Are you serious? Completely serious. Emma needs you, Grace, and frankly, so do I. You've become part of our family. Grace's eyes filled with tears again. Michael, I don't know what to say. Say yes. Emma would be over the moon. And you would have a real home with us. Grace looked around the house, then towards the room where Emma was playing. Are you sure? It's not just gratitude. It is gratitude, yes, but it's also recognition. You are important to Emma, and people who are important to her are important to me. Grace dried her tears and smiled. Then, yes, I accept. Michael smiled in relief. Grace, welcome to the family. They went upstairs to tell Emma, who received the news with explosive joy. Really? Grace is going to live here with us? She is Princess. Grace is going to be our family. Emma jumped into Grace's arms, hugging her tightly. Now I have a heart mommy and a heart daddy. Grace looked at Michael over Emma's head and he nodded. That's right, my angel. Now we're a family. A week later, Grace had already moved into the guest room. The family's routine had changed in a wonderful way. Grace took Emma to school in the morning, and Michael picked her up in the late afternoon. Grace took care of the house, but mostly she offered Emma the motherly affection she had lost. One afternoon, Emma came running home from school, carrying a sheet of paper. Dad, Grace, you have to see what I made. It was a drawing of 3 people holding hands in front of a colorful house. A little blonde girl in the middle, a man in a suit on one side, and a woman in an apron on the other, all of them smiling. It's us, Emma said, beaming. Our family. Michael looked at the drawing and felt his eyes fill with tears. It's the most beautiful drawing I've ever seen, honey. Now I have a whole family again, Emma said, hugging the drawing. I have a daddy who picks me up from school and plays with me, and I have Grace who takes care of me and loves me like a mum. Michael looked at Grace, who was also emotional. Emma, Michael said, pulling them both into a hug. Do you know what Daddy's greatest fortune is? What is it? It's not the company, not the cars or this house. Daddy's greatest fortune is love. The love you give me, the love Grace has for us, and the love we have for each other. Emma smiled. Then we're very rich. We are, Princess. We're the richest family in the world. Michael hugged Emma and Grace, feeling a sense of completeness he hadn't experienced in a long time. In that moment, he understood that sometimes life takes precious things away from us, but it can also give us unexpected gifts. Grace had lost her daughter, he had lost his wife, and Emma had lost her mother. But together, they had found a new kind of family, a family built not just on blood ties, but on bonds of love, care, and choice. And it was the most perfect family any of them could have wished for. In Emma's drawing, the 3 figures remained holding hands, smiling, and in real life, Michael, Emma, and Grace continued on together, discovering that true love always finds a way to heal wounds and build something new and beautiful. Michael's greatest fortune truly was love, and now he knew how to cherish every moment of that wealth. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.